All right, I guess we can start. Welcome to the April 28th Parking Advisory Committee meeting.
June 2nd.
Correction, June 2nd. And we have present Diane Mariano, Matt Buckley, John Rankin, John Cohn, and Chuck Gilroy. And the first item on the agenda, welcome, which I did, and public comment, and we see as any participants. That is us. So there's no public comment. Deletions or additions to the agenda. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? All right, next agenda item. Approval of the 4/28 minutes. Does anyone need a copy?
We love a copy. Thank you, John.
All right, we'll take a moment to look them over.
Good. Thank you. Look at these, John.
Yeah.
Online.
I guess I would make a motion that we would accept the minutes as sent.
All right, let John look them over another moment here.
Thank you for these detailed notes. Did you get the spelling problem? No parking begins her,
Oh, okay,
Under 632.
632.
okay.
It's Cochran Road. It's italics.
Or
You have.
Death, what is it? Isn't that a title of a book? Death Becomes Her? Yeah. And the second one, John and Diane recused themselves, not are recused.
Yeah, I should have done proof that better, sorry.
No, no worries. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay, with the changes. Changes made. Who wants the second?
You have to start again, yeah.
I'm sorry, Sid.
You have to start a new motion. Don't make corrections.
Okay. So who's moving the new one?
I move to approve the
Okay.
minutes for April 7th, 2025.
Okay.
With the additions so noted in this meeting.
Got it. Second,
Second.
all right, the minutes are approved. Then moving on to discussion topics. Follow up on state ethic decision regarding the parking advisory committee and follow-up conversation with Josh Arneson. Does anyone want to read that?
A question. And the minutes show, that I asked whether the issue is different due to the fact that we're an advisory in nature. And I don't remember what Josh's answer was.
I don't think he answered me, or if he did, it was kind of an amorphous kind of answer. I thought about that as I was preparing the minutes, and I remember nothing definitive about what he said.
I think it's I think we should proceed like it does bear on us, but we ought to get clarity from him, because if so, then this stuff could all be much easier. I think we assume
I think
that,
he made it kind of clear that he has no oversight, he has no say over this, he does not have, he can't change what the ethics committee tells us to do. He
correct.
can
No, this
tell us his
wasn't a
opinion, so
discretion
you would
thing.
Go back to the ethics committee with that question.
No, this wasn't a discretion thing. It was because the language said, it was very explicit about, you know, select board, decision-making groups, et cetera, and was vague on this point. So it was more of a clarification, not asking him to change the rules.
Well, could we,
I don't think it'll affect much, so I'm not pushing on that. I just wouldn't, if they said, oh, no, you know, it's just.
could we declare ourselves to be subject to the ethics policy, even though we are
Sure,
advisory in nature?
I think we sort of have, right?
I think we sort of have.
I thought we had.
But the language of from the state was unclear on that. Maybe the follow-up would be to feed that back to them.
Do we want to make a motion? Or am I overthinking it?
Would the motion be that we do.
We do
assume that
consider
those are
ourselves
presented?
subject.
Might be good for clarity.
Consider ourselves what now, to be covered by the ethics rules or not
Yeah,
be
yes.
covered?
To be covered.
Yeah, I think.
I think that judging that we're supposed to go and review the information and sign off on it. I feel like we're supposed to abide by it. Otherwise, they would say, yeah, they don't have to do it because they're an advisory board. So I think
Well, I think we have the same ethical standards as the select board or anything else, anybody else.
And the subtlety is that state law doesn't apply to us, but it's been extended by the Richmond Select Board to us. Because we're not, I forget which boards automatically fall under the state rule, and then someone correct me if they remember this different. That's my recollection.
I think that, you know, Duncan sent it out to everybody. We're all supposed to
Yeah.
review this stuff. I feel like we're all supposed to be like,
We're all of an agreement that we should, so maybe it doesn't require a motion. I don't know. Up to them.
Well, I'll move it anyway. Matt moves that PAC is subject to the ethics policy, comma, as extended by the select board. Applies to PAC in spite of PAC's advisory nature.
Okay,
All those in favor?
I
Okay. Okay,
All right, we're moving on to follow up on opening of Checker House parking, new signs question mark.
Are we all done on anybody have any other
Oh.
questions on the ethics decision?
I'm sorry, I
The
jumped
no,
ahead
so
too
it's okay, I
fast.
just, I felt like it was a big topic, lots of discussion going on. Is there anything else with that? I personally think it binds us, binds our hands a little bit. And I think just want to point out that it's the recusal stuff is you know, up to individuals and we can discuss things, but we can't vote on things. If there's any historic information we have. From what I understood in reading the ethics, that, for example, if there was a decision made on the parking in front on Cochran Road, obviously, we would have no discussion on that. But if there was, hey, last weekend on Cochran Road, this is what happened. I feel like it might be good information, whether we sit there and talk about it, or like if something's happening on Dugway that we're not aware of.
I think we concluded that there's nothing that prohibits a member from recusing themselves and then speaking as a member of the public, making sure it's very clear.
Say like, this is information, this is not part of decision-making, this is what happened or what occurred.
I think she made it fairly clear in the ethics that we don't vote on it, we don't discuss it as a member of the committee. So you sit in the public and you are called upon as a member of the public. And you wait your turn. And that's how it's supposed to work. When you recuse yourself from this, you remove yourself from the committee for that
Yes,
topic. You're no longer a member of the committee,
yes, but it's
but you're a member of the public
absolutely.
who gets called upon when it's time for public comment.
So I hear you and it seems that, I just want to make sure that the individual gets to recuse themselves, not another member says you can't talk about that.
But the actions of the individual reflect on the integrity of the committee. So I don't think it's beyond the scope of this for somebody in the committee to ask you to remove yourself from the conversation.
Yes,
Our guidelines
I-
are clear from the ethics committee.
Mhm.
That we don't act as committee members if we live on the road where this conversation is taking place.
I think there was also wiggle room there that
Yeah.
it sort of seemed like there was an obviousness. If it's like you can see it, you should recuse yourself. But if it's the other end of, or in your case, it's the other end of Dugway, or our case, it's the other end of Cochran Road, we would. That was my understanding of the conversation.
That was my understanding.
yeah,
Yeah, we didn't argue that point.
Yeah,
East Cochran Road is different than Cochran Road.
yeah. So I think, and
You
this
can see all of East Cochran Road from your mailbox or from your front yard.
Mhm.
yes,
And I didn't argue the point that I live on Dugway Road, which by the way, I technically don't. And I can only see 100 yards of Dugway Road. So
Mhm.
I get that, but I was fine saying, okay, I'll still step back on
It
this.
might make sense to make it like, if you can see it, that would be that'd be reasonably clear.
I think that's clear.
In other words, it would be in
I
your
think-
ears, yeah.
I think before we beat each other and ourselves up on this, let's try to get through the future of the pack
Yeah,
Great,
before we try to make long-term plans for something that may not apply.
Also, literally, John, just to perhaps state the obvious, there's a section of Dugway Road where people park that adjoins a strip of land I own that I cannot see. It's around the bend,
oh my gosh,
yeah, from the mobile home. So I think it's not just what you can see or not see. It also is proximity to
you're probably,
ownership. I just, one more, sorry.
I had no idea.
One more thing before we move on. I just want to be very clear on something you were maybe not suggesting, but you were making the distinction about information only. But my reading of all of this is that even if it's information only, you can only present that information as a member of the public and not a member of the board.
I am in agreement with that.
Okay, I wasn't, okay.
Perfect, these are good to talk about, so we
yeah,
know the boundaries.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank,
All right, I'll just share that. Follow up on sign relocation on East Cochran Road, I think is a short factual statement. Is the part I'm going to present, but then that would raise the question, would any member of the committee recuse themselves? And that may be getting at what Diane was going, and wasn't gonna talk about, speculate on what the answer is, but I think that was sort of perhaps in the category of things you were
Where's the
contemplating.
This is a ball of string, you know, we're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
pulling at
yeah.
it, trying to figure it out. I think if you're gonna make a statement about signs on Dugway Road. And I'm not gonna comment on signs on Dugway Road. And we're not gonna vote on signs on
Yeah.
Dugway Road. And it's a waste of time for me to remove myself from the committee, if everyone agrees with that.
Yeah,
So if you're making a statement that says. Whatever about the signs on East Cochran Road, I don't think John and I have to leave.
I'm not gonna. I just was pointing out. That any more discussion?
So. And just, I just wanna. Reiterate one more time. So if, say, a sign on Dugway Road is damaged, and one of you. Come in and when we do, we do public comments at the topic. So we get to Dugway Road, and then one of you say, I have a public comment that one of the signs. That was put up has been knocked over or whatever, and then.
That's good thinking, that would be the ideal time. To get ahead of the problem. And say, as a member of the public, I have an observation, blah, 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 come back.
I appreciate this clarity, and I thank you guys for keeping it going with me. Thanks. All right.
Any
I'm good
more?
on that.
Any more discussion on this topic?
Got it.
No, none. Then moving on
Hopefully
to
not.
follow up on opening of Checker House parking and new signs question mark.
I can start this one. So because Duncan and Pete were both off on the opening day of May 15th of the parking area. I went down and took John's rope down. And then riding by later in the afternoon, realized that the rope that protected the swale was missing, so put John's rope back up in a different place. And let Josh know about that. Then I started a conversation first with Duncan and Keith Osborne. Regarding permanent signs there, and got approval there both with the town. And got approval with them to put permanent signs up. Then I picked up the conversation with David.
Signs saying,
Sorry,
signs, saying what, or just what's the category of signs? Parking here? What, when you say,
Seasonal.
Checker House parking.
yeah, just what, I'm being picky.
Okay.
When you say you discussed signs and got approval, what signs?
I'm sorry, good. So I at first I discussed putting 2 signs at the Checker House parking. On either side of the entrance that said seasonal recreational parking, May 15th to November 15th. And once the town gave me the green light for that,
May 15th to.
November 15th,
Okay.
coinciding with the cycling, so. Then I took it up with David Hosking at V-Trans. And we went back and forth a bit because he was under the impression that we weren't allowed to put permanent signs up there. But we couldn't find it anywhere in the contracts. He finally agreed that we could put permanent signs up there, but he suggested that one side would be the seasonal parking sign and the other sign be no overnight parking. So that we covered ourselves better. So having both those approvals, I reached out to Josh. And told him that, gave him the letters of approval and the notes of approval and all that stuff. And he's copied me on email to Pete saying order said signs and install them as soon as you can. So I'll have signs there.
Okay, appreciate that.
More on this topic? If not, then moving
You
on.
want to add your.
so I had to go check. Or a couple of things I had to, can I throw the thing in as I moved the Beeken parking lot, but in this case, I went and there was no way to put the season dates on there. So what I did, there's open and closing times. So I changed the title to seasonal parking, and then what we'll have to remember to do is in the off season, we'll say closed for the season. So I have to,
Good idea. I'm not so much worried about the November 15th
yeah,
as you are that May 15th, because this year,
Right.
May 15th, it seems like halfway through the summer.
All right, any more discussion? In the Checker House parking? Then moving on for preparation for summer 2025 Dugway Road, and then monitoring of use question mark. Someone like to lead?
Nothing.
Okay.
I did send a note to Jim Feinstein and didn't hear back and sent him another note.
About,
Oh,
Just if they, what I said is if the land trust was planning on doing any sort of. Either counters and or surveys, we'd like to collaborate and put some parking questions in there. But I haven't. Might be traveling.
all right, Dugway Road members, you could chime in as a member of the public if there's wanted, or as a member of the committee, but I'm not hearing anything.
this is great.
This is good.
I just
This is
love
good.
this is good. Yeah.
That's a.
I appreciate this.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything else on this topic then. Moving on to follow up on sign relocation on East Cochran Road. I'm the one that put this an agenda item, and I corresponded with Josh Arneson twice, and then he said today about whether they are planning on moving the two signs. One is the beginning of parking that doesn't technically coincide with the road ordinance. And the other is the sign that says caution, watch for, it bites children, etc. And so Josh said today in his email, I talked to Pete. He has a number of signs that he is ordering and will install them in a few weeks. He intends to address these signs at that point, to bundle the work with a few days where the crew is doing sign work almost exclusively. So I guess that means that they want to do all their sign work at the same time, including moving those two signs. And that's going to be done in a few weeks.
I suspect they have a hydraulic ram or something they mount on the truck, driver post,
Okay.
that they're gonna do that for Checker House, then they'll do these cock at the same time.
All right, any other comments on the sign relocation in East Cochran Road? All right, then moving on to Richmond Land Trust Beacon Preserve parking status. So I shared at the previous meeting that I had corresponded with Jim. And Jim had said that back then in April it was too wet to open. We have permits in hand and are getting bids to gravel that lot for 20 parking spots. This should happen later this spring, depending on securing the funding. Still not the most convenient spot for the existing boat launch, but the best we have. Old Beeken lot will be rehabbed with tree planting this year. That's what I shared at the last meeting, and I emailed him yesterday and haven't heard back from him, but I know the rope is still up. And it's kind of rutted and wet down there, so quite possibly that will not be open until they put the gravel on, but I don't know that. And right now there is limited parking in that portion of Cochran Road for launching a canoe or a kayak or a raft. So it's quite possible some people will be parking on the side of the road. Perhaps at the old opening that is partially closed and the new opening that has a rope, but you could put a couple cars in there. And one could, I guess, get off the travel portion of the road in places, even though it's not ideal.
It's not ideal. As of today, somebody might do that.
Yeah,
I find it curious that Richard Coles is across the street and 100 yards down the way is piling up waste gravel, trying to clean up where the bank washed off right there on the horse farm side.
Mhm.
And meanwhile, 150 yards up the road,
They need some.
we have somebody looking for a bid for gravel. It's like, it seems like that's a marriage made in heaven, although I still question. The legality of them bringing in gravel for their parking area. As far as the floodplain is concerned, but that's above my pay grade.
And it may be getting more into recreation than parking, but the new parking area is a bit of a haul if you're moving a larger boat, which I think Jim was acknowledging. Right, that's, I guess.
I want the river to bring back the gravel at our swimming pool
Oh, did it?
or a
Probably
beach.
down at the other end of it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
The topography, the whole.
Our
everything
beach
has changed.
changes every summer.
Same,
And
same.
And I guess the follow-up would be, there might be more, it would perhaps bring more interest to the Jonesville Bridge area or to Overlockers, I guess.
Yeah, or even there was, I went by the one of Duxbury Road. And
Oh, there's the state lot there,
yeah, there was one person there selling. Yeah,
So I'll keep my eyes open and see if the car's on the road, I guess.
yeah,
I don't have anything else on this,
The only thing, I mentioned this before, but I did move and update the parking information on the town map, the Richmond parking map. So so it's now on the Richmond webpage,
Are you talking just Beacon or in general?
Beacon,
it's moved down the road?
Yeah.
Okay,
because it was still showing the old place.
Okay. and then the sign in front of it says it opens April 1st, so it'll cause some confusion, I guess. Are we ready to move on to the next topic? I put this in here just as an FYI for people that know that there's an open position for the town of Richmond zoning administrative officer. And Tyler Mashia has moved on to another municipality. When I looked on the website, I didn't see a zoning administrator, so I'm guessing that position hasn't been filled. He talked and exchanged emails with a number of us about what could and couldn't be done as far as adding additional parking and existing zoning rules. And if one were to try to do it, what the procedures would be, like going through the development board of review. And so because of my conversation with Keith earlier in the year, the town planner, he said that it's possible if there was a different zoning administrator on some of these, he might reach a different conclusion. And so anything that Tyler has told us, potentially there'll be a new zoning administrator that'll have the same or different opinions about what can and can't be done and how one would go about it. And I'm not planning to do anything right now, but just something to keep in mind.
putting your name in the hat.
Yeah,
No, I think I read the requirements and I don't have them.
Yeah.
is it a paid position? It's a paid position.
Yeah.
It's paid, yeah.
Is, and what I remember with Tyler is, he was just saying he didn't think, he wasn't making a ruling.
That sounds familiar,
Yeah,
yeah.
he said he didn't think, but I think that there's more of a process for making the decision, so I don't think there was a decision made.
Right.
Okay.
I don't have anything else on this.
Thanks for keeping us informed.
Now we,
Next career then.
So,
Ugh.
all right, moving on to discussion of future of PAC. Should we go through these one at a time or? I don't know.
Those are just little plugs to give us some direction, we can take it
Okay.
any order we want.
Did we, I was thinking back, Josh really didn't give us a point of view, did he?
Not really.
No, I think he agreed that it'd be handy to have us on calls,
mhm.
so that he had a mechanism in place for parking. But I don't think he contributed too much into I don't think he saw our scope changing. So didn't see us taking on more responsibility or more needs.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe he did comment on the first one, is he thinks it would be good to have at least when needed.
It's been useful. There's been a
Yeah, for
couple of
sure.
small things that he's passed by one of us to, hey, can we take a look at this? I think it's been useful for them. Yeah, I think he said if we wanted to reform or change or disband, I felt like maybe we should go to the select board for that discussion. That was.
Two things that I think that I know I'm not interested in is merging with another committee. To me, that's a definite no in my mind. And the other is, I see no need for us to talk about expanding the membership of the committee, given that we don't know what we're going to be doing or not. I think maybe that's a conversation to have in the future. But I don't think it's necessary now, so I really think it kind of narrows things down to disband or somebody used the phrase on call, or I guess a similar to on call, a little bit different, would be to plan on having meetings more like every 2 months or something like that. 3 months to talk about what might be out there. But I don't want to merge.
So I totally agree with that. We don't have enough work as is so to expand us makes no sense. Also the filter we have to use to look at new candidates, I think becomes somewhat onerous. The fact, where do you live, where do you
Yeah.
do, and all those kind of things.
What can you see?
So I don't see that as an option. I've always been vehemently against joining another group because I think our unique priority is parking, and that priority would be dissolved by any other group. My gut feeling on this is, guys, is that we either disband or we schedule 2 meetings a year, May 15th, November 15th, whatever, something coinciding there. If something comes up that we have a quorum to meet again, we can meet for reactionary stuff, but I figure if we meet in the fall, we can review the summer, prepare for the winter. If we meet in the spring, we can review the winter and prepare for the summer. And that May 15th just seemed to be close.
When do our terms end? I forget if it's May 1st.
I forget,
I figured.
yeah.
You keep talking, I'll keep looking.
When we formed in the beginning, John, I had the sense, maybe it was wrong, so I had a sense it was a short-term kind of thing where they would fix these hot points, areas. It's a lot of work, a lot of discussion, a lot of getting us on board. There was amazing work done by Lee Boyd, who understood a lot of the things that still affect us now, was like floodplain and the process. And yeah, I felt like a good solid 2 years was great, and we moved the needle, and I feel like it's more difficult to seek out new areas to see where they fit. I feel like there are still areas that are still hot points without much recourse, unless some property comes up. Or we can, so I feel like either to meet infrequently or find a frequency that works for us, or disband as a group. I agree with both of you on not merging
Me too.
and not growing.
I like the idea of, for now, May 15th and November 15th. And that gives us a little flexibility to, at least like the next meeting where it's November 15th, we could review what the summer was like, various hot spots, see if any action. is warranted. Let's see if any new hotspots have come up. And then, there's always the option in the future of expanding. But you guys have been around far longer than I have, so I defer.
I think that, 2 meetings a year, I could be tolerated by whomever. I also agree, don't want to merge. Just want to point out that the expand part was just when we were in the throes of the quorum. If people had to recuse themselves, did we still have a meaningful quorum? So I think that was the only reason. The only thing I would add is that if we do that twice a year, we could come together with, the idea that when something comes up, would we count on the select board to sort of put up the bat signal, or would we have some responsibility to kind of keep our ear to the rail and see if stuff?
I think either or both. I mean, I
Yeah.
think if, if like Diane says, if a piece of property comes up or something like that in June. Well, then we click on the bat signal and we
do it ourselves.
say, is it worth meeting? And 3 out of 5 of us say absolutely, and we all meet.
Okay. So we don't necessarily wait for them to.
No, the nice thing is it would be a more focused meeting.
Yes, and we're all gonna be driving around town with our, seeing things.
Mhm.
So I think there's always the opportunity to,
But it would need to be warned and everything like that.
I understand it, but,
Yeah.
No, that's a question.
Yes, but, I mean, we could just email.
well, we could email and say,
We
hey,
can say,
I'm seeing this, what do you guys think?
yeah, should we get
That's all.
together and,
Should we get together officially?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, and I'm just playing out the scenario of that new Beacon lot and I think you're right in going like, well, it's not open yet, you can't even park in there yet, and yet, so people are start parking on the road. And it's gonna fill up, and somebody's gonna say, hey, parking advisory, what are you gonna do about it? I would just say like, wait, it's their parking lot, we're gonna go through a little bit of pain until that gets set. I don't know any way around it. I don't think us meeting, we could meet if we needed to discuss it, but it's the only hot. And of course, beautiful Gillette Pond is always in the back of our minds. How that gets used.
So it would be unlikely that there'd be a hot topic that we felt the need to address, but if there was. We think we can ask Duncan to warn a meeting.
Of course.
Sure, we just can't do it overnight.
Well, have to tell Duncan ahead of time,
Mhm.
pick our meeting dates for the next 2 meeting dates and say, get rid of all those other ones because this is when we're meeting.
Exactly, yeah,
May 14th and November 12th, or whatever happens to be.
Right.
And then we can always, if something comes up. We can have a meeting, we can Zoom a meeting. We can, but as John points out, it's gonna be a warned. Special meeting or whatever we wanna call it.
you have the Aurora Borealis app,
Is that what that is?
cause
It's-
mine just
Oh.
went
Like,
about.
tonight's supposed to be good. If
About
it's
seeing-
clear. Oh,
it is-
might be a little clear.
Sounded just like, I'm sorry to interrupt, I thought, oh, he's got the same app I have. So,
We don't see the outside world in our house. Like if one of us has been to the store or something, walk in the door, the other will say, what's happening out in the world?
so. I get a sense that, let's ride this out at least certainly for the season, and certainly into the end of 2025.
Yeah,
Evaluate
I
in
think-
November or October, whenever.
I think all of our terms, and I'm not certain of this, end on June 1st of 2026.
I looked it up, I couldn't find the answer, so you're probably right.
So we're all 5 of us,
So June 26th?
Next year,
January 1st.
June 1st.
Oh, June
man.
1st.
Is there like a parole hearing? Like we could get, yeah.
So we would. If we would adopt a twice a year plan,
End of this.
we'd walk away today and come back on
I can do
May
this,
something.
I like this.
I can do this.
Do we have a?
I would make a motion,
Wait, what happened to November?
what's that?
You suggested May and November. But I thought I just heard you say we would walk away today and not meet until next May.
Next November.
Oh, we, not sorry, we walk away today and meet in November.
Okay.
You did hear me speaking correctly. God, you're good at this. So I would make a motion that our fixed meeting schedule would be 2 meetings a year, one in the spring, one in the fall, with special meetings scheduled as needed.
Before I approve, can I make a suggested amendment, or how does that work?
Make your own motion.
Oh, okay, I would just add to that, that we would notify the select board that, you know, that we could be summoned. On their request or on our own. It might be good to say that, you know. We'll let you know in November that we can rally reasonably quickly to address anything that comes up. I think that would be an important thing to communicate to them.
I mean, they seem to be avoiding using us right now, so.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I think we should let Josh know.
yeah, so we should, so.
How about we let Josh know?
I think,
Rather than
Because he's
specific,
the key communicates with them.
So that doesn't need to be in the motion, is that right?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
I'm not sure we need to motion any of this except for. On the online calendar, it says the parking advisory meets on the first and third Thursday of every month. So we need to have that change, so I guess I go back to the motion that we have a spring meeting and a fall meeting and schedule special meetings as needed.
Well, second,
And I'll ask before we vote that it looks like all 5 of our terms end on June 1st, 2026, so maybe in November, we would talk about whether we need to reach a decision. We individually would have to reach a decision if we were going to be asking to be on the committee past June 1st of a year from now, so that we might somewhere before May 15th have to come to those decisions as to whether we're gonna seek future terms.
I also think that we should be, you know, whenever we're at the water cooler at a party, we should look for candidates to groom.
Okay, so would we like to add that to the agenda for the fall?
I think you're right, I think we're always gonna have clerical housekeeping items during those 2 meetings. So I think you're exactly right, you know, we're gonna have to put on the agenda item on there that says, who's gonna be here in May? You know, or actually, who's gonna be here in,
Well,
July.
I'm just, because we have an hour and 15 minutes scheduled left, I wasn't rushing here. That. If. We'll probably want to decide before May 15th. If the committee is going forward, and probably sometime in the spring of next year. And we can deal with that in November, but I'm just pointing that out now.
I think it's a great November.
Yeah, okay.
To see, okay, after June 1st, who,
That we might have a meeting before May, but we can start with November and May as our target, it's not okay with that.
the only. We're doing so well, but the only hiccup I see with this. Is. What happens if someone poses a question to the parking advisory committee next week? We don't have a chair,
Mhm.
maybe we should have a chair.
I don't know.
I would say, so, where would it come in through? From like the email or?
Let's say somebody sends us an email saying, you know, I've got a question about the parking, or how can we do this or whatever,
Mhm.
and looking for input from us. It wouldn't be very professional to say, good point, we'll talk in November.
No, that, exactly.
So is that worthy of a special meeting?
well, I think we decide.
I think we decided.
We decide among ourselves.
Yeah, in,
Or if we had a chair. Then I believe the chair could answer the questions and we would not feel left out.
mhm.
I saw Kevin the other day. He's a great-
Oh, my God.
he's a good guy, I miss him,
They saw the cost.
and a good golfer. That's good.
The open meeting, so say I get a request that says, hey, wondering if you could, what's your thoughts of extra parking X, Y, or Z? And then is it okay for, if we don't have a chair, it's okay for me to say, just got this email, should we gather to answer it, or? I think you're right, Chuck, that is really like, well,
I think that would be the plan. I mean, I'm not, no one's been coming to us for a while anyway.
Exactly.
So
Mhm.
it obviously isn't gonna happen, but I think that whoever one of us, somebody approaches, we could then send out an email. And it may just be a question that's history, or, you guys could
Why not
answer.
that? Yeah.
And if we need a special meeting, then Chuck put that in his motion.
We could do a half-hour Zoom meeting on something. Hey, I've been obviously thought about this 2 meeting a year thing for a while, and just looking at the pros and cons, and that was one of the few cons was our inability to react quickly to an issue. But I think that's right, is that we can hold a meeting and all sorts of configurations of what a meeting is.
So Chuck moved, I seconded
Could you, state the
it. Chuck
motion?
moved to have fixed meetings twice per year, spring and fall. Special meetings would take place as needed, the special meeting will need to be run. And Chuck, you said spring and fall, but I'm assuming you're meaning May 15th and November 15th.
I didn't want to drill down the dates, but just because those are dates we deal with the parking, it seems like those make sense.
Okay.
Well, would you want them a particular day of the week, or those are just general targets?
General target.
Middle.
Yeah, I don't want to overthink it, I mean,
Yeah.
It could be November 1st, because
Yeah.
none of us are available on the
right, that's why I
15th.
can't wait spring.
Yeah,
Okay. All those in favor?
But wait, are we gonna talk to Josh, and what's the next step after this, that we tell Josh what we've done, and if he doesn't like it, he can tell us, is that?
yeah.
Don't complain about a volunteer.
Um,
So I don't, do you want the job of,
Not really,
I'll be
okay.
happy to communicate, with
that,
or is that, was
No,
that
no.
really for?
no, you want to tell Josh what's going on.
I'd be happy to
go
communicate
go ahead,
if you'd like, or you can, I don't,
no, go ahead,
all right, I'll grab it.
So you don't want to be the chair.
and that was what, yes.
Ah.
that's right. Okay.
I'd like that, I'd financially support your campaign, which means I'd make.
All right, so I interrupted and we didn't vote,
We didn't get to the ayes, right?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So not only, does that motion need to just let Josh know, but also Duncan, and I'd be happy to do that communicating, so Duncan could change the calendar.
I would suggest that you, if you could, Diane, give Duncan 2 dates that are in the scope of what we're talking about for meetings, so we can publish those. And then as we get closer, we'll
So I'm gonna
pick a date
set,
that works for us.
so I'll set a November date.
I made, yeah, set a November date, yeah.
I don't know if they have. I don't
Just so
know if 2026.
People know that we still exist. It's not quite as busy.
And I'll keep it on Mondays.
All right, well, the fireworks committee doesn't meet every week or something, your other committees, that,
Similar.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
These aren't fireworks enough?
Very similar.
I've never been to the Richmond fireworks.
Oh, my goodness.
We've always been at home tending to terrified them.
Yes.
Yeah, if you've got pets, like,
Yeah.
That's hard.
Oh,
Yeah.
we had one of those.
All right,
Okay.
that was,
Tessie knows if there's fireworks.
topics for next meeting? There
There are no topics for next time.
next meeting date, or we're just flying through this.
All right, so can we skip those two then?
yes,
Well, next meeting
Next
date,
November, mid-November,
mid-November.
Are we meeting on Monday, right? So,
November the what? I can't even think of,
Anybody have a
Actually-
calendar?
I
Where
do.
did you look at-
So, the Monday, that is closest to that is the 17th. So Diane,
So
tend to be
we
out
tend
of-
to, we tend to
yeah.
be out in November, and if I, more likely to get us if we put it on November 3rd.
or even the 10th. Yeah, 3rd would be best. How about that?
Works for me.
Okay, there's no election.
All right, thanks for that.
One thing that we should all do just on our own is, and I guess we would, is just keep an eye on the situations that we've been interested to see how. Just, I don't think we need to be reminded to
Not
pay
that we need to be
attention.
reminded, but you know, because when we get together in November, it might be nice to some pictures or some comments, or there seems to be a lot of activity like, oh, 4th of July is this. I think there's a lot to be gained by keeping a little history going.
Yeah, we do have, we actually on our Google Docs have pictures that are dated. Might as well, if you see something good or bad, take a picture, send it to me.
And we'll keep the same formula that, you know, a couple of weeks at a time, I'll send out a draft agenda and you guys can mark it up. And you know, there'll be some housekeeping and some action work.
Carolyn didn't get a picture, but the most amazing parking thing that she saw last summer was someone at Triple Buckets who had parked nose in with half their vehicle in Dugway. Yes, you mean nose.
Like a
Yeah, yeah.
diagonal kind of.
Not even diagonal, it was perpendicular to the road. They just didn't care.
I would wonder if there was substances involved.
Maybe the only thing that calls for is to help them move the rest of it off the road.
Speaking of Dugway
So
Road, go ahead.
here's a question, and it's only a question. Do we wait until November to approve tonight's minutes?
I
I don't think we can.
don't think we can.
Can we approve the minutes via email?
I think the answer for administrative stuff like that would be good, couldn't we? Because they're
Well,
gonna be public record. I think that's okay.
So the way minutes goes, and I don't know if you've been doing this, Matt, or not, but you send the minutes in within X amount of time, 5 days after the meeting. And they are listed as, what's the word for non-approved?
It's a draft or?
Draft. They go under a draft. So Matt, you can send the minutes to, who do you send them to Duncan? And you could just say draft. And so they get there, anyone can look at them and read them, but they are not approved until.
Okay, I'll just,
We look at.
and I'll
them.
do these sooner than I typically do.
So are we approving them in November or are we?
The question you said, can we approve the minutes? I don't believe we can.
I think we can if we don't discuss it.
I think it's a yay or up down vote.
So quite, you want to put someone needs to put a question
Oh,
to,
no, that's interesting.
we should probably. Make that inquiry to somebody or just
Are
want to
we
do it.
required to approve them within X amount of time?
Next meeting date is all I know.
So we
But
would
we
be
are,
fine.
we are required to put them out in unapproved within 5 days after.
You wanna ask Josh when you're talking with him, you may not know the answer.
About, can we, I can.
Well, the fireworks committee must do something similar.
Very good point.
There's a funny thing, there's a guy who meticulously goes over these things. He gets great joy by reporting state committees that have not put their minutes out or have not put them out approved in time. And he has been arrested and taken out because he makes himself such a pain.
That's
Oh, I've
the.
heard about that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's pretty interesting, yeah.
I'm gonna ask, can we, what's the procedure for approving minutes? Can we do it via email? Or November?
Yeah, he loves giving the city of Montpelier fits.
Because there must be a way that let's say we decided tonight that we were gonna shut down the committee, we're done. we still had to, as a committee, approve the minutes that said we were done. Which means we would have to have another meeting, so you'd never be done.
Oh my God, it's like
You'd
Xena's
be chasing your
paradox.
tail.
Yeah, that'd
forever.
be great. Oh my gosh.
All right,
Okay. Tangle web we weave.
Motion to adjourn?
Or, someone wanna make a motion to adjourn, just we're done.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
I.
Have a great summer.
So speaking of Dugway.
All right,
Monday-
We're still.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, we got it,
Yeah, hit stop,
Yeah.
right?
Stop.
Stop.